Hey, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of Yoml. This is the Year of Magical Learning, a podcast. Today we are on a reflection 206. And 206, I think we are going to revisit one of the author we uh talk about many times before, Bill Bryson. So Chris, why don't you let us know what we got today?
Yeah, the book today that we're going to be doing is Shakespeare: The World as a Stage by Bill Bryson. So this is another Bill Bryson book. We just talked about a Mary Roach book the other day, and how much these there's so much learning that goes on in these books, and there's a ton of fun. Great fun journey to go take. But this book is about Bill investigating the life of Shakespeare, and kind of what we know don't know about him. Some of the myths and theories out there about Shakespeare, and whether or not they're true or not, and kind of just his impact on that his work has had on shaping history. It was I don't. Do you know much about Shakespeare?
Well, I know I had to learn about him and his
Right.
work in high
Yeah.
school in order for me to
Right.
pass and get my diploma.
Yep. Exactly. So I
Well,
mean that's
it's Romeo and Juliet, mostly maybe a little bit of Hamlet.
yep. Yeah, for
So,
sure. Macbeth. Midsummer's Night's Dream, Tempest. Anyway, like there. So that's the funny thing about Shakespeare is like everybody knows who Bill Shakespeare is, and I mean I venture to say, like, I've at least either watched a movie that was an adaptation of a Shakespeare play, or read a book that was the actual play, or been a part of like some sort of a performance as a kid, that was a Shakespeare play. I mean, I would have to say at least 30 times in my life, like where it's been some form of a Shakespeare play that is derived from it, at least 30 times. I mean, I can't. I mean, there's just so many movies that are based on Shakespeare plays you don't even know. Like 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of Taming of the Shrew. I mean, it's like, it's like stories that you don't even think about, that aren't even explicitly, Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. Like, it's even worse than that, where Macbeth is like, there's probably 50 movies out there that have been created that are about like Macbeth, storylines,
hmm
anyway, the guy's really famous is the point. And with how famous William Shakespeare is throughout at least the English speaking world. I don't know how he's perceived in other countries, but at least in the English speaking world, Bill William Shakespeare is just incredibly famous. The funny thing about that is, as famous as he is, that we don't know anything about the guy. Like, I mean, like almost less than nothing. There's like less than zero information about William Shakespeare out there, of his origins, of why he wrote what he wrote, of how he wrote what he wrote, of when, of even if he is the original writer of these things, like, like, I mean, there's like basically no information about William Shakespeare. The sheer fact that we even have his works is almost a minor miracle, honestly. I mean, like that we even know who he is, to in today's world, right? So that was what I learned in this book about William Shakespeare in general, and what it made me start to think about was this reflection title of the why behind your meaningful work is more important than the end product. So we all know his work, right? We all know the meaningful work that Shakespeare produced, his art. We see it. It's I think ubiquitous is the right word, I guess, in English, in the Western world society. It's everywhere. But like what I'm more curious about after this whole journey that I've been on, and that we've been on together, is how that art came to be. Like, I asked so many questions in here about like what was his why? What was his purpose? Where did his inspiration come from? What was his atomic bombs that led him and propelled him forward? Every single day to keep writing and writing and writing and producing more and more, work. What were his meaningful relationships that contributed along the way? What was he chasing after? What did he believe? What was his beautiful question that he was trying to get out of his head? Right, like that stuff for me is way more intriguing than the end artwork that we see. And sadly, Like, the one thing that William Shakespeare never wrote about was himself. Like, so, like, nobody knows why he did what he did. Nobody knows any of this stuff. Nobody even knows hardly anything about the guy. Like, and that's why for me, this whole journey, I'm adamant that people need to tell their stories. I mean, I will listen to anybody's story. Like, I love hearing, people's, the origins and their own, what went into making it who they are, and why they care about what they care about, and how they see the world. Like, I am fascinated by these things, and I care way more about that than the end art that they produce. Because at the end of the day, I think we all know, William Shakespeare's art, the fact that his meaningful work that he produced, the fact that we see it, is it's kind of a black swan. Like, I mean, why William Shakespeare? A lot of other people wrote plays back then. A lot of their plays didn't survive. Like, I mean, what's special about this guy? We don't even, a guy that we barely even know anything about. There, are his plays the best plays? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Like, I mean, but we get taught them in school. Like, we get, it gets shoved down our throat that William Shakespeare is the end all be all of writers, and playwrights back in the whatever, the 1700s or whenever the hell he was, 1400. I don't even remember when it was that he existed. But my point of what I'm getting at is, like, it's not about your meaningful work that you produce. Like, the chances that the meaningful work that you and I produce are going to be known, 300 years from now is probably slim and none. And I don't really care. But what I do care about is this journey. This journey is what matters. This journey of how our meaningful work came to be is what matters, like, to me. And that's what I want to hear about from other people. And that's sadly what, if you don't share your story, nobody gets to know. So that was kind of what this story and learning about this book made me think about. So share your meaningful work, share your journey, and enjoy your journey, because that matters way more than the art that you produce, in my opinion. So yeah, love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think, the word meaningful, it's one of those things where I think, like I said before, it has to have an owner.
Right.
It's
It's got to be
meaningful
your
to
meaning.
the person,
Right.
like meaningful to you,
Right.
right? And so to me, like, whatever you want to do that gives you the feedback, it's that feedback loop, right? Because when you act out in the way that you're supposed to be, there's a feedback that gets to you and you receive it well, right? And to me, that's meaningful work. And I think, um, I mean, if I have to take a guess, right? William Shakespeare doesn't really care whether or not people know him, as
No.
long as he gets to do what he wants to do. And I
Exactly.
think, Shakespeare may be a black swan, but I think it requires a kind of person that is comfortable being himself, because only that person can focus on the creativity versus trying to find, like, the next story, the next movie, the next whatever. Because when you do that, right, the problem I see is when you are trying to find an end product, all you're doing is copying other people. I
Yep.
see this in businesses. I see this in movies. I've seen this in even playwright, like in books and stuff. Right? You don't allow yourself to think like yourself. You
Right.
want to think like that person. Oh, I want to be like Steve Jobs. Oh, I want to be like Elon Musk. Oh, I want to be like Bill Gates. Oh, I want to be like Warren Buffett. I want to be like William Shakespeare. I want to be like whatever. Because of that,
How many
you're
times do you hear
not
we want to be we're gonna be the Uber of X, and you're like, no.
Uber. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean, that thing has been uttered probably like a million times. The
I
Uber
mean,
of this, Uber of that. I
right,
mean,
right.
and to me, like, there is no other Uber.
Right. There's just an Uber. Like, yeah, yeah,
It's just
it's like,
Uber. And so that to
right,
me is because you are trying to fit yourself into somebody else's shoes, right?
right.
And if you are, let's say I'm a beaver and I'm trying to be a lion, how good of a lion can I be? Even if I'm the fucking best beaver, I can probably be like at most an average lion.
No, I don't even think you can be an average life. Like, I mean, how can, like, that's
Most more
that's
likely
offensive
than not, I'll be the worst lion, the runts,
yeah,
like the
exactly.
runts of the runts.
that's offensive to every average lion out there. They're gonna be like, "What are you talking about? Like like that can't be an average lion."
You puny little guy, you're nothing to me. Like, yes, like I say, I mean, I'm
Right.
making a point, right? I'm embellishing it because to me, a beaver can't even beat the worst of the lion,
Right.
right? You can't even. I mean, you can't even.
Well, and vice versa. The best of the lions can't build a dam in the
Exactly,
water either. I mean, like,
exactly,
yeah.
and that's my point. Is when you don't allow yourself to be yourself, then nothing new comes out of you.
Right.
Nothing new.
Your meaningful work is a manifestation of your lived experiences, all your unique lived experiences, and everything that goes into those things, and how it manifests out of you into something you can share with the world, right? Like that can't be a copy of somebody else. Like it just can't be. Like that for that is so personal and unique to you that it's impossible for it to ever be for you to take somebody else's idea and try to repurpose fit it for you. It's impossible. Like, I mean, you will tell that it's been a repurpose fit, and then it won't last either because people will be like, well, there's always going to be a better idea out there. There's always going to be whatever, but there's never going to be another you. There's never going to be another meaningful work, and your lived experiences all coming together to produce something that you can share with the world. That will never happen again. Like
I
what
mean,
we're
this is
doing right
this is
now
what I'm
will
saying
never
is
happen again.
beyond just the meaningful work itself. When you are trying to, find something and produce something, the end product of something that is based on someone else, you will not. The first thing is you will not going to produce a better work, and second of all, you're gonna hate that work. And
Right.
this is the anti meaningful work because the work that you do isn't fun for you. It's eating the frog every day.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying is even when you're trying to eat the frog every day, you can't even be better than the least of that. If you are trying to be a lion, you can't even be better than the least of the runt of the lion.
Right. I mean, true. Like, if somebody asks you to go do once we hit our 365 goal or whatever it is, you and I are still going to talk, and we'll figure out how like the journey evolves, right? But if you said that we had to go do it all over again, first off, I would say fuck no. I'm not writing all these reflections again. Like, I mean, like I've purged like myself, through this journey of all that I want to write about purpose and meaningful work and meaningful relationship and values. I get it. Like it's in here now. Like, and like we're gonna I've done I want to move on to other things that I want to learn about. I want to go explore new things that I want to go explore. Like for me, if you asked me to go do this whole thing again, just in a similar vein, but for a different whatever, just keep going, I would go, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, like it's not that I don't want to keep learning every day, and it's not that don't want to keep reflecting every day, and
Well,
it's not
that's
that I
the
don't
thing
want
is that this is what we're saying before again. I want to iterate this. When you say something seems fitting, but it's not perfect fit, a machine with a corn slot. Do you take a quarter, or you take a dime, or you take a nickel, right? And if you fit a nickel into the slot, it will fit. Yeah, it's a right, with whatever, but at the same time, it's not the correct one. And so, just like I was saying, Snow loves his teaching, but he hates his job because of the way it is. And
right.
so, a lot of things that we do, right? We think that hey, doing something like this may be fitting, but it's not exactly perfect. Because this is why I'm mainly very, um, I guess, constrained in saying that I should do this, I should do that, versus hey, what does I feel like doing? If I don't feel
Right.
like doing it, then it doesn't align. To me, it's like let's say we do the write about like the example I can give you is William Shakespeare. He loves to write playwright. I mean theater, arts, and
Sure.
entertainment. He doesn't want to write by himself, right? So there's no need for him to say, okay, because I'm a writer, I should be able to write. Can he write by himself? Sure, he could, right? But that is not a perfect fit for what he wants to do. So
Right.
it isn't really meaningful work. I think it disguised as meaningful work because it's like, hey, if I tell you I will tell you a story, but then I kept out some of the facts. I tell you, 9/10, of the truth and 1/10 lie, right? Is that really giving you everything, the whole piece, right? That's the point. Is it has some part of it that seems like it aligned with your core values, but it's not 100%. Maybe nine of them align, but the one doesn't align. That that misalignment could kill you, right?
Right.
Just like an
Right.
apple, right? You have a little hole with a worm in it, right? It's a bad apple. You can't. I mean, that's the thing is, it still looks like an apple. It still has some of the characteristic of an apple, but it's a rotten apple. And so having core values that mimics or almost perfectly align with core values is tricky. And having like not enough clarity in what it is that you want to do and who you are, you can be victims of this, like the fake core values that,
Right.
well, not fake, but it's not your core value.
It,
Therefore,
it, I mean, in a lot of ways, it is fake. It's not your.
it's fake to
It's
you.
yeah. It's well, it's not. You're right. The
It's
fake
not
isn't the right
fake
word.
because
It's inauthentic. Inauthentic.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. The yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, and the thing is I'm not saying I'm going to stop writing. And at the end of
That's what
this
I'm
thing,
saying is you and I, what we do is we love to learn and we love to learn from each other. That's one thing that,
right?
you and I, like, before we start this podcast, right? You and I, we only started this podcast like January of last year, right?
I think so.
Yeah, but we've been talking for
Uh,
like almost 3 years. So
right,
we've been
right, yeah,
shooting
yeah,
the breeze for a
right.
year for a year and a half
This was
before
a
we started doing
natural
this.
alignment as
That's
to yeah,
that's the
yeah,
alignment. This is what
right,
we're doing is we
right,
love to learn about different things. We love to discuss this so that we can learn more and get more insight. This is what we are naturally aligned, perfectly aligned. For us to go and try to force yourself to write a reflection on something, I don't think this is what meaningful work is for you. For you, it is, because this is why I
no,
refuse to write it, because I know that it is far. I mean, for you, because you are creative and you're good at writing already, and so for you to say, hey, yeah, I mean, I'm practically 95% there, right? That's
right.
why you say, well, I'll take it. I can do this, but eventually that 5% start to add up. For me, it's
Oh
the
yeah,
opposite, right? I know that
yeah,
I have only like maybe 10% good at writing, so I knew right away it wasn't the kind of the path I want to take. So for me, it's like this. I mean, I'm completely enjoying the conversations. I didn't have to write it. I didn't have to force myself to come up with reflection. That's
right.
something that you did, but I don't think that's what you think. For you, I think what which I found out later on is, I think, you know that's what I'm saying is you are you're doing the thing in the wrong order. Meaning, like, every book should have one reflection, which is, I told you, I don't care if 10
Right.
reflections come from one book or zero
I
reflection
know,
come
I
from,
know.
because but for
It's
you it's like
it
up
was
until this point you have to have a reflection for every single book. Am I right?
well, there's only one book that I have not. Oh, there's two books. There's two books that I did not write a reflection on because they
Not
were so
yet,
they're
but
no
but
no
you
no no
you
no
you
no
had to
I'm not going to. They were so bad that I was like, I refuse to write a reflection on these ones. I was like, this does nothing. I was like, I
but
cannot think
that's
of
what I'm saying is,
anything,
but that thing
Yeah,
is, it makes my proves my point though. The
yeah,
point is that, because you take on this challenge, for the sake of a better word, but it it is within your ability, right? But
right.
it's straining somewhat. It isn't giving you back the energy. It's just draining the energy. That's why you can't continue to,
Not
because
always. Not always. The good books. I was literally just writing about this morning because like you've inspired me to revise my reflection from that god awful book, the five dysfunctions of a team or whatever,
hmm
yesterday, where like, I mean, to your exact point, I spent like an hour painstakingly trying to extract something out of my head that made sense out of this book, and I got it. I got there, and then when we talked later on, I was like, but I deep down I knew when I was writing it, I was like, I know I'm reaching, I'm reaching right now, and it made sense. I made it made sense, I made it make sense to myself, or whatever. But like, and it was actually interesting working through that process. But I also at the same time always know, I know myself well enough now writing through this journey that like I know when something's or I have to like work for it, to bring it out. Like, there's certain books like, The Way of Integrity that I just recently finished, or Think Like a Monk, or Running with Sherman, or whatever, where like my head is just exploding with ideas,
your ideas is keep
right,
flowing out.
right,
With certain books, right? Your head is exploding
right.
with ideas, and there's certain books that's like, I got nothing. I got crickets. And so that's the thing is for me, for us, we have to make sure that what we do needs to align, because we want free thinking. That means that let our brains does its thing, right? Learn something, let it chew on it, let it marinate, and let it, see if it can connect to other facts or other ideas that you have. And I mean, when you read the book Platform Revolution, right? When we talk about business ideas, right?
Yeah.
You were telling me how we can rent out a kitchen. Okay,
Right.
kitchen is
Yeah.
expensive. I mean, the thing
Yeah.
is, it comes out, and you cannot even write down fast enough.
Right.
Okay.
No, you're exactly right. Like, I mean, it's when it's just free flowing like that. That's when those like those are the books that I crave. What I was
That's
writing
a
about this morning is
and
like when you dig a hole, right? Like, like sometimes you don't find shit in the hole, but sometimes you find a lot of stuff in the hole, and you're like, oh, just keep digging until you can't find anything more in that hole, right? Like, keep going and down a rabbit hole until you hit, I don't know, whatever, like until there's nothing left for you to mine. Keep
right,
mining out
because
that damn hole,
I think you should let you be you and not be constrained by, because like I said, we for whatever reason tries to find patterns in everything,
Right.
right? We don't allow ourselves to be out, uncontained. And a lot of times that's what I say, hey, oh, it's 365. What the fuck 365? Because it's within a year.
Because I said it is, and because
No,
like,
no, no, because you have
oh, I
this
know, I
anchor
get it.
of
I am
a year,
all in
right?
on it. Yeah.
Right? You can say, well, a year of magical learning. Well, a year has to make sense, has to have 365. Why, right? Who
Well, the
makes it up?
actual the actual title of Your Magic Learning is hilarious, because like it's actually been 3 years, like of learning that's been condensed down in this. And I shit you not, true. Like I'm calling this right now, like right this fucking second. Like, okay, today is what day is today? February 23rd. Um uh I wrote 3:38 this morning. So I am, what is that? Like, how many are left? It's 365 minus 338. Just like, what is that? I'm not a mathematician.
6538 is
20, there's 27 left,
27
right?
left. Yeah.
Okay, so today is February 23rd of 2023. There's 27 of these left. I am doing on average about 3 a week right now, because like I'll probably finish. It depends if I really like a book or not, but like I usually at least once a week find a book that I really, really like, can get like 2 reflections out of, or something like that. Sometimes I find a book, anyway, it's like 2 to 3, but let's just say 3. So 27 divided by 3 is 9 weeks, right? 9 weeks from now is what?
9 weeks from now,
9 weeks
it's
from now
gonna
is
be
what?
November,
No,
December.
9 weeks.
9 weeks. Oh, 9 weeks.
9 weeks is what?
A
1,
month and a
2,
half.
3,
2 months. 2 months
4,
and a half.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. April 22nd is at the end of the 8th week. That's when Amelia passed away. I'm already seeing this, like I'm like this fucking this talk about like the omens or whatever. I swear to God, if this thing ends a day or two before Amelia's anniversary of her death, of this, like, you know what I mean? Like, talk about like a fitting into the journey of this, because this has been because of her and with her, and will still be with her afterwards in whatever new form it takes. But to think that timing would literally end, I didn't, when I started writing this, I didn't know how fast I was going to go or how slow I was going to go or whatever. I mean, there was no coordination. There was no anything. Like, I mean, I had no plan other than just try to write it as much as I can about the stuff that I'm learning, and I swear to God,
But my point is, it doesn't have to be.
I know.
I mean, let me ask you this: how many tennis games have you played?
I don't know.
Exactly. That's my point.
Right.
You're not supposed to know because it
I
is
know.
something you as some like asking me how many breaths of air I've taken. I don't count them because I
Right.
want to take as many breaths as I want. I want, like, for you, you want to play as much tennis as you can. It's one of those things when you don't count them. If you have to
Right.
count them, right, and you have to find something to say, hey, this is the round up, this is contained inside of this, whatever, then it's not, to me, it isn't 100% aligning with who you're supposed to be. So for me,
I
it's
don't
like,
disagree. I mean,
so
this
to
was a
me, like,
challenge.
if like you get to the point where you're doing these reflection, right? To me, is I don't care if in 3 months you have no reflection. I just don't care.
Yeah.
And the thing is, whether or not people going to like it or don't like it, I still don't care, right?
I agree. I mean, I
And
really
so
don't
so
care.
you
Like,
just let
this
you
isn't
just
for
have
anybody
to
else.
let your brain does its thing. If it inspires you, then you write. If it doesn't, then you don't.
Oh, I know. No, I'm with you 100%. I'm just saying, like, I'm doing the math. I'm not, there's no quota. I'm just saying, like, this is the pace that I'm going at right now because of, like, I've already hit
But that's
all the,
the pace is the pace, right? It has,
it
to
is.
me,
I
it
mean,
has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with, like, you know. But that's the thing, is once you start calculating,
I'm not calculating. I just like looked out into the future for a hot second, like a few days ago, and I was like, son of a fucking bitch. I was like, I was like, this is like aligning exactly to when, like, Amelia's, the anniversary of her death is. And I was like, I mean, like, these things don't just happen. Like, I mean, like, it's not like, this wasn't just like, this was me looking at the castle, going through this whole entire thing, going like, all right, it gives the, it's more of a motivation to say, I am doing the right thing. This is what I wanted to do with her, for her. This is the challenge that I accepted, and I'm going to finish it. But, like, is it exactly right? And we're really off topic from the Shakespeare stuff, but
Well, we're talking about meaningful work, though. I mean,
right,
that's what I'm
right.
saying, is
I'm
meaningful
not
work.
forcing it. I'm telling you right now, I'm not forcing this at all. Like, for me, like, one of my values is challenging myself, and this is I told you, like, a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, when this winter started and Luca went to daycare, and I was at, like, reflection 300. I was cruising, man. Like, I mean, I was in the easy zone. The ideas were just coming. The time that I could write was easy because we had Kiara here. Like, and then Luca goes to daycare. He gets sick all the time. I ran out of the backlog of books to go write about. Now I'm not able to do every single day, so my daily habits are being broken a little bit up every once in a while. I feel like I'm under the gun every morning. Like, I hit my like, shit. Like, this is hard now. Like, like, this is like no longer easy. And I was in that, like, that grind, I guess, for like probably a couple months, where I was like, what is the point? Why am I still trying to push so hard to go for this? And then I just gave myself a break, And I was like, it's
I mean,
fine.
that's
Just
just
do
what
what you
I'm
got to
saying.
do, Like,
I mean,
and
this is what
that's,
I'm
yeah,
saying is, meaningful work is hard to explain, right?
it is.
It's hard to explain, and it requires a lot of iterations to get it done. And sometimes, something that seems like meaningful work, but we have to be careful that it's not a decoy,
Agreed. Yeah. I
right?
mean,
And so to me, it's very dangerous to, like we talked before we went on this podcast, is, the the hardest thing is once you pick up a habit or pick up a core values, and which is not aligning with you, it is harder, much harder for you to even pick accept the right one. When the right one comes along, the one that you had, which is wrong for you, is
right.
going to butt head against it. And just like I was saying, is, I took the wrong core values when I was growing up because my dad, is works far away and never to know home, and I always like play in the streets and whatnot, and I pick up the wrong core values, and I was this hard-headed, stupid kid. And I told you many times before is in my head, if I had a time machine to go back and tell my my younger 18, 20-year-old self, I still don't know how I'm going to get him to listen to me. I still don't. Because it's not like he listens to reason. And so that's the thing is, pick up a wrong one. It is
You always listen to yourself. Like
so
you always,
detrimental to your future, because there's nothing can rip the old one, which is the wrong one, out
right,
and put in a new one,
right.
right? And
You always listen to yourself in the here and now. Like that's the only person you ever listen to, in my opinion. I mean,
exactly.
like,
But that's what I'm saying is when we do things, like one of the things that I've learned over the years is that if you do things and you can't wait to get back to it, or when you stop for a while, you miss it, then you do those things. Like just like you and me, let's go take a vacation for a week. Like we don't talk
right.
we don't talk for like a week. What happens? It's like,
Yeah, no,
something's missing, something's kind of feels weird.
right. No, when I'm writing, like that's what actually what has been happening. This is why when I couldn't write every day anymore. This is when I really started to hit my rough patch on this, not rough patch. My it got even more challenging for me was when I was I mean when I used to write I wrote every single day, Monday through Friday for it was like 15 months straight, from the day that we started this until about 15 months, and that was when I hit about 300 books, or 300 reflections, and it was when I had to stop that habit of writing every single day because I didn't have anything to write about. I didn't have a book finished anymore. I didn't have a new thought or whatever. I didn't like I was now caught up to real time of I would finish 2 books a week and I would be able to write 2 reflections that week, or something like that. And that was when it got real hard for me. Then there's been a couple times where I've been able to write for 5 straight days because I had multiple reflections for a particular book. Plus, I finished maybe 2 or 3 books that week or whatever, and I would write 5 days in a row, and it just felt so good. I was like, man, oh my god, I'm back in the zone again. I'm back in the flow. I'm back. My mind's working again. It was the stop and start, and then it was like all the Luca stuff. Then it was like, well, if I don't read a good book, then I can't get more multiple reflections out of it. I mean, it's hard to describe, but like. But I'm saying I'm past it now. I'm doing it back to the reasons why I was doing it in the first
Right, because
place.
I think when to me is so back to what I said like a few days ago. Sometimes you do things in the wrong order, because I'm saying is writing. You only write when you
Right.
have something to write, not because.
Well, that's not true actually. I write every morning, no matter what. Like I'm always going to do that because
But
that's time that I spend with
that's
family.
how I see it, though. That's how I see it. I mean, regardless of what you say, I still not going to understand you, because for me, writing is the act of saving the idea from your head. That's, to me, it's a tool. It's not I'm writing so that ideas come to my head. I don't see it that way. You may see it that way, but I don't see it that way. I see writing as the second order of having a thought.
Oh, I
Right?
agree.
Having a
No, no.
thought, you write it down, so you saving it. Not to say, oh, I'm gonna write so that a thought will come to my head.
This
To me,
yeah,
if
yeah,
you if
this book, this book, this book, this book, and this book are all sitting right next to me. There's 5 books, and then there's like 4 more on the shelf behind me that are these daily reflection books. I don't get this shit from nowhere. Like, I mean, I write every morning. Amelia and I get a thought from Japanese death poems, and we get a thought from it, and then we go write about it, or we get a thought from trusting God day by day, or we get a thought from the Daily Stoic, or we get a thought from 366 days of tennis, like that's where we get our thoughts from every morning, and then we go write about it, and then we go, and then through those second order processing of an idea or a thought together, then other things spontaneously start to come out of that, then that's great. But that's what but to your
right, like
point,
I'm saying, is once you
I
have
don't
a
just wake
thought,
up
you
with a
write it
thought every
down.
day,
It's
yeah.
great. If it doesn't, that's part of the process.
Right, right.
To
I,
me, if you know, if I were a writer, right, which I'm not, because for whatever reason, when I start writing, my thinking stops.
that's
So
weird
I
because my only it just makes me think harder.
so the thing
Yeah.
is for me is like I said, you know, if I'm in a meeting, I don't write notes, which is like the opposite of most everybody because
I don't write notes in a meeting. I can't do it.
because if I write notes, I can't fully actively participate and listen to conversations, right? So
Yeah,
when for me is in any meeting, I am fully attentive with my eyes and my thought. I don't do anything else, right? If I do anything, it distracts me from the thought. So I've done that before where I start taking notes. At the end of the meeting, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do.
uh, I agree with you. I mean, I don't take notes during meetings. Like I hate it. Like
But
I agree with you.
most people do. Most people,
I
when they
can't
take
focus.
notes, that's me. I can't
Right.
focus when I'm taking notes. That's why I don't write.
No one can. True. Like I mean, I don't care if they're taking.
I
There,
don't know about you, but other gurus out there say you need to take notes because you know you need to more remember more important facts and this and that, blah blah blah. That's what people told me. I don't know. Maybe I may.
that is not that. Well, first off, like
They
it's like
say if you
read.
don't
It's
take
like
notes, then you know you don't care, you don't pay attention or whatever.
well, no, it's like reading a book. Where like I'm not going to remember everything from a book. That's impossible. Like, I mean, like I could take a note about everything that I learned from a book, but that doesn't mean I'm going to remember it. Like the shit that you remember is the stuff that sticks, and the stuff that sticks is the stuff that, was counterintuitive
Right, right.
or is unique or took you down a mystery path or it was a story or it was something that you learned that was totally new and fresh and you had never heard of it before like that's the shit that sticks out of a conversation. So you have to listen for those things in order to be able to find it, and then you take the whole conversation in totality and then you go, what did I remember from that? Like that's what matters, because that's what's all the only thing you're gonna remember anyway. Like if somebody makes you go regurgitate back, you're on a client call with somebody and they're like, hey, what were my biggest needs? Well, I wrote down 50 different things in my notes. I don't know what your biggest need was. My biggest need, I told you at the beginning. I told you this 7 different times in 7 different ways and 7 different things. Sum it all up and to say, oh, my biggest need is right now I don't have any visibility into my business or something like that. I mean, my point is you have to summarize yourself, like what you just got stuck in your head and what made it stick for you, and then be able to then say that back to somebody. Then you go back and take notes from what you remember. That's what I do, personally.
Right, because the thing is for me is you know I truly I believe in that if you don't understand it, you will remember it. So
I agree. Yeah.
so for me, taking notes is asking questions because I ask questions because I need to fit certain things inside of my picture. And if you answer the questions, right? To me, for whatever reason, I remember the answer to my question because for whatever reason, if someone
Yeah,
answer my questions, right?
you're solving a mystery. I mean,
It sticks to your head.
yeah.
If somebody tells me some kind of fact, some kind of story, I may not be interested. But the moment I ask a question, I remember the answer clearly. Like I can recall it. And so for me, taking notes is asking questions. So in meetings, I mainly ask questions. That's why
That's what you should
that's
do.
why I do. So for me, it's writing. So reading and writing. For whatever reason, I was conditioned to have a negative, kind of like emotions with it. Associate it triggers a negative emotion. Maybe because maybe in my because early in my childhood, for example, I did not read until I was 7. Okay, I was a dumb kid. I can't read anything. I can't do anything.
I don't know
Right.
that means you're a dumb kid. I mean,
But
I
that's
don't
the
know when you're
point
supposed to
is
read.
when I was 7, I can barely read. Okay.
Right.
I mean, most kids can read at 1 year old. I was 7 years old.
What
I can barely.
what 1-year-old can read?
Some 1 year can read.
Who?
Some 1 year can read. I'm not. I mean, it's not the majority, but look it up. So I tell you, somebody can hold their breath for 6 minutes. You
Yeah,
think it's impossible,
I
but
guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's
but my
possible.
point is that most kids can read at 4 years old. So
Right.
I'm 7. I'm completely like half behind, kids my age. So by the time
Right.
they're 7, I mean, they would have done something great. I can't even do that, right? That's the thing is reading wasn't something that I'm good at. Writing is even worse. So that's why to you that I told you, like up until I was, throughout high school, I only read one book cover to cover. The rest is just
Right.
like skimming and just taking some notes from it to pass the class. I
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
read it. It's not because I didn't want to learn. It's just for
Yeah.
whatever reason I had this
The book was boring.
traumatic experience of reading and writing. So to me, I'm an abnormal kid when it comes to reading and writing.
Right. Well, that's fair. I mean, to be fair as well on the other end of this, like I mean, I'm probably grammatically the worst writer ever. Like I write like I talk. I just like to talk, and that's how I talk is through I found it fun to be able to talk to myself through my writing. Like, because like nobody else wants to listen to me talk, maybe besides you, as much as myself, so like, and I mean, I love to talk to myself in my head, and this was a way for me to be able to, like, have a more fun conversation and getting the conversation that's going on in my head all the time out of my head. And I write for the most part kind of conversationally. Like I don't really write like, you know, I
I
don't
think
write.
it's boring to write grammatically correct because
Right. Yeah.
it's so
It is boring.
in
It's
a way in a predictive patterns,
right.
and it becomes monotonous. You have
Right.
to break. You have to break, and you have to pause, and you have to emphasize certain words or certain key to kind of give your brains a way to say, hey, something's important, pay attention. Something not important, don't pay attention. So your brains is always constantly trying to pick up the different signals, and you don't get a given signal, it's going to go to sleep. That's why I'm telling you is a lot of people when they read something, right? If they read too fast or read too slow, they fall asleep just because their brains is too fast, for example, right? And you read
Right.
too slow, it gets bored and it shuts down,
Right.
right? So sometimes if you read too slow, because if your brains are thinking too faster than what you can take in, your brain's gonna shut down and then you're gonna fall asleep. And
Yeah. I
vice
mean,
versa, if you don't
that's
understand anything, right?
that's that's why
It shuts down. It stops processing.
I mean, that's why I personally hate physically reading. I get so tired because I want it to go faster. Like, I want the conversation that I'm ingesting to go faster, which is another reason why I love audiobooks. I can pick the speed that I wanted to that I can hear it at. I talk fast. I want to hear fast. I process things fast. And I want to be able to keep up to that speed to keep me engaged. Whenever I put it on, like even just like a 1-to-1 speed on an audible book, I want to pass out. Like I'm like, whoa, this sounds like the oldest person in the world, talking to me, where it's like, hey, True, this is here.
See,
Frankly,
just a
I
few.
really don't care, to be honest, as that isn't what this journey is about. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
After the fourth word you said, my brain starts to shut down.
Right. I mean, it's so I mean, like I have trouble processing. Like I think that's a really interesting point because I that's one of the reasons why I don't read as fast manually as I process language that somebody's talking to me as fast. And it tires me out. Like whenever I
Because the
have
thing
to
is, our
train it.
brains do not read words; they read concepts.
Right.
Concepts. So you give the brain concept, it reads faster. And concept is going to be whether or not you can understand the concepts. And how fast you can process it depends on your existing nodes. For
Mhm.
example, I can tell you about 1,000 day Turkey. You understand exactly what I'm talking about. If I tell you mediocre stand versus extremist stand, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? This is because you already have a other nodes that knows what that is,
Mhm.
right? And so having our brains is a processing powerhouse, but that processing powerhouse is only as good as the the other notes beside it, so that every time you learn something, your learning exponentially rises. It's not linearly, because all the different, like the first book, right? The first book you read, it's gonna give you, a number of facts. But the second book, it compounds on the first one, and
Right.
the third one compounds on it. So your brain thinks in concept. That's why I told you that you cannot.
I mean, look at this look at this reflection. Like this reflection is about Bill Shakespeare, and I'm talking about his meaningful work. Like in like the power and the why behind it. Like what is that? That had nothing to do with anything in this book, but that was what my brain thought about after I finished it. I'm like, man, like I want to know what everything that went into how he found the inspiration to keep going every single day. Like I know how hard it is. Some days were like this morning. Like I told you, I was out on a run this morning after a tennis match I had late last night. I've shit you not. Like I had to say to myself, like and I'm this book that I'm listening to right now. This is going to be a reflection someday. Is called The Nightingale. It's about this this World War II story about these two sisters that helped, like soldiers escape back to across enemy lines. They're both in Paris, whatever. I'm not going to tell you the story. It doesn't matter. One of them was helping these soldiers that have been caught behind enemy lines cross over a very, very treacherous journey, and one of them fell. The soldiers, and he was like, I'm done. I can't keep climbing this mountain. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm bleeding everywhere. Like I can't keep going. And this girl, like asked him. The little girl is kind of the star of the book. She was like, hey, is there somebody back at home that that's waiting for you? And he was like, yeah, my girlfriend Alice or whatever. And she was like, well, then get on your feet for fucking Alice. I mean, she didn't say fucking, but she was like, and get on your feet for Alice. And take one more step. And he was like, all right, you're right. And this guy gets up and he goes, and I swear to God, I'm on the middle of running like this morning, and I was like, it's a beautiful day outside. And I mean, it was a beautiful day, and I am hurting. Like my back was hurting. Each step that I was taking while I was on this jog, I was about maybe a half mile into the jog, and I was like, every step, I was like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, the sun's in my eye, and then I'm like, oh my God, like, and I'm not joking. And then I heard this, and I was like, okay, Chris, like take one more fucking step for Amelia. Like just go. You know what I mean? Like, and it's this stuff. What I'm getting at is like, this is stuff that I'm telling you. This is stuff that I'm writing about. This is stuff that I want to know about William Shakespeare. Like, because I guarantee you, he woke up many days going, I don't want to fucking write today. I don't want to create a new play today. I don't want to do this, like, and then there's somebody you always are doing this stuff for. There's always a reason behind this stuff. And that's what I wanted to know.
You do for the reason, right?
Right.
The reason is all that matters. The reason is what makes anything meaningful to you.
Right.
So to me, you and I are saying the same thing is, the meaningful work, it is individualized to that person. And the why is essentially what makes that meaningful. It makes it meaningful. Otherwise, it has nothing.
Meaningful. I mean, Shakespeare's work to me prior to this thought is nothing. I mean, I don't care about Macbeth. I don't care about Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, I had to learn it in school, and
we were forced to learn it.
Okay, right? We were forced to learn in school, and cool. Romeo and Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes made a pretty cool movie when I was like a kid. That I thought was kind of cool. But like I don't care about what Romeo and Juliet meant, like and where it came from. I mean, what I didn't.
It's not meaningful work to you, so right, it doesn't just matter, right? Right. And what the thing is, that's important to know. The thing that you have to understand is like what I'm saying and what you're saying as well, is that what you do must truly aligns with who you're supposed to be, who you are as a person, and that makes right. The why, and the why makes it perfect. And so for you, it's like, hey, I mean, if somebody asks you to go, hey, Chris, I know you already play like 4 games this week. Can you come out and play another game with me on?
This happened today. Right. This happened today.
So the question for you is, what did you do, and how do you feel about that?
I said yes. I gave up my evening, and I said, you know what, wife, I will put, I will do extra baby duty tonight so I can go play some tennis, even though I'm hurting. My fucking hand is bleeding from trying new stuff. Like my back is killing me. This run that I was on this morning, when I got back in here, I was like, oh, thank God I'm back. Like, even though I'm glad that I did it, but I mean,
But my
I'm
point
in
is,
pain.
are
Like,
you obligated to do that, or because you wanted to?
no, I wanted to. I mean,
Exact.
and
My
honestly,
point exactly, because the thing is, you even sacrifice
I
other
know.
activities. Say, hey man, Felicia, I'll do this, I do that, and I mean, you even bargain to get to do it.
I
My
know.
point, my point is that once you find this meaningful work, right? It's like you want to. For William Shakespeare, he wants to write this
Right.
playwright. He wants to use his creativity. He wants to be that person. He doesn't have to write because, oh, I expect you to have this playwright,
Right.
in the next month, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. That isn't meaningful work. That is somebody else is forcing you to do something. That's
Yeah.
called work, right?
And this is actually, ironically, you're bringing it full circle to why I was so mad about that Five Dysfunctions of a Team book. The reason why I was so mad about it is everything in that book. The foundational element of that book is the team comes together to achieve a specific result and an outcome, and that's all that they need to focus on and care about. And I was like, that's not it. That's wrong. Like, at its core, like, that's already, like, I cannot agree with anything else that this book says, because that's not why teams come together. They come together for a shared purpose around an alignment around things that they all care about. They do not come together to produce some outcome that nobody gives a shit about. I mean, sure, you may think that you care about it. Like, I may think that I care about hitting 365. I don't care about that. I care about spending time with my daughter. I care about learning every day. I care about reflection. I care about sharing this with you, and I care about being able to do all this stuff together. Yes, I set a goal for myself of that, but like that was just that's secondary.
Secondary.
Right. It has nothing to do with why I'm doing this every single day, why I'm pushing myself all the time. So when I was reading that book, I was like, this is the outcomes are irrelevant. Like, I mean, like, I don't care if no one ever watches us, in these conversations that you and I have, or no one ever reads, any one of these reflections, or ever even hears of this. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter to you either. But like, and that's the point. It's that's we can form a team around this stuff, and we can continue to add more people to that team because they care about these other things. Eventually, I have a feeling that somebody will care, but that we don't really care. I mean, but I have a feeling that other people will, because we don't care, they'll go, oh, well, I like where they're going with this, because they really care about what they care about, like the but once again, it's irrelevant, right? Like, but kind of bring that thing full circle of like why meaningful work matters, and why all this stuff matters, like, and why I want to know the why behind it, and why I want people to share, is because that's the only thing that matters. Like, I mean, like, that is the only thing that drives you to want to be a better person, and to do, and to live your purpose is this is meaningful work, is the values and the underlying reasons behind it, not the work itself, right? Not the outcome. Like,
Right, because I give you the example. You are a tennis player, right? Somebody asking you to play tennis even though you're sore, you're tired, but because this is something that for you, it's fun because
right.
that's who you are. It's fun, so you are willing to give up other things and sacrifice more hurting on your palm or whatever to do to kind of get to be in this state. And
If,
so
if
that's essentially meaningful work. If you get to that point, right, and say, well, I'm willing to do extra chores so I can get this
I'm
one.
willing to read, I'm willing to read 365 books, and to write, for an hour every single day, and then talk about it for an hour every single night. Like I'm willing to do all that for nothing. If I pay for it. I mean, because I pay for it with our Zoom subscription. I pay for it with all the books that I buy. I pay for it with, if I ever want to turn this into a book or
But
something
that's
like
the
that
thing
someday.
is, that's the signal that we have to look for. If you doing something right and it gives you so much energy, that's the core value you're looking for.
Right.
And the one that doesn't or probably mimics it as a decoy. And a decoy is, like I say, you know, in the at the end of the day, you're gonna have to let go, because even though it takes only a little bit of energy, you don't notice it, but eventually it will add up in the long run. So
Agreed.
having something that gives you energy to be able to trade for other stuff, like, you know, doing extra chore,
Right.
making
I-
up for
yeah.
other opportunities and whatever. That is energy spent. So where does the energy come from? So whatever you do has to net positive energy for you to trade for the other stuff to get to do it. So that's what I'm saying is, even in a state where you already had your fill with the effort, the activities like the tennis, right? You still want more if some opportunity comes knocking and say, "Hey, Chris, can you go out for another hour? I want to try my new trick shot and see if you can take it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
can,
exactly.
defend my trick shot." You say, "Yeah, yeah, I love to see it." I mean, it just rile you up. I
I
mean,
mean, to my own detriment sometimes, like that's the true sign of like what you're saying of if an activity is meaningful for you is if you have to tell yourself to say no,
yes,
no, you can't, you need to take time off to heal. Like I can't write every day because I mean, well, I'm sorry, I write like just a quick, like, on the weekends, like a 5-10 minute reflection or something like that. But like I can't do this stuff every single day. Otherwise I mean I want to, but like I can't. Like I mean I will run out of energy. Like I mean I will hurt myself. Like like I will start to get struggles from it. I will start to feel like I'm pushing for something that doesn't need to be there. Like I don't need to push myself for that. I don't need to go hurt my body even more for this, to go play tennis tonight or tomorrow or something like that.
right.
Like when pulling yourself away, that's another key sign of
It's the thing that's hard to stay away from. That's
right.
probably a good sign that that's truly your core values.
or
And
or
so,
the underlying the underlying actions that are
right,
driving that activity. Yeah.
it's just like tonight. You basically exhausted from a I don't know, maybe whatever the word you can describe an awful week, and you run on fumes right now, and
Right.
you're an hour and 15 minutes into this thing.
I mean, I shit you not. I shit you not. I went into this call right beforehand. You can ask my wife. I was like, I just want to go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep. I told you this right when I first popped on here. I was like, I don't have any energy tonight. I was like, I'm fucking tired. Yes, and you're right. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this conversation, and I still have energy to keep talking to you. And I don't even know how we even got to this far in this conversation. I'm not even joking. Like I mean I'm like, how is it 9:45? Like I could have gone to sleep. Like sleep. Like at like 8 o'clock. Like an hour and 45 minutes ago, I was ready.
Right.
I was ready to go walk into my room, let my face just crash on a pillow, and not wake up again until like 6 a.m. when my alarm clock
Yeah.
goes off tomorrow morning. And here we are, almost 10 o'clock, and now you just reminded me I got to go to bed. True, like I
Right.
really do. So
But
like
that's my point, though. When you do something like that, right? It's you just gain additional energy. Because
it comes
to
from nowhere.
me,
Yeah.
to me, it's like, if you didn't like it, there's no way you can last more than 15 minutes or even 30 minutes of trying to figure out what to talk about. Your brain's gonna shut down, because
Oh my
to
god.
me, you are already like behind in your sleep. Your body is craving for the R&R. That's why you're so tired. Like before you start on this,
Right.
your body say, "Hey, I need some R&R so I can repair some of these damages that you've done to your body by playing extra tennis matches and doing
Right.
and trying to fight off the infection that your son is it's is bringing home from the daycare." I mean, your body is craving for it, it's begging for it. But then you
Right.
come to this one, and you talking and then talking, because that makes you feel good, and
Right.
that's what you can do every day. You can probably do this every minute, right? To
uh,
me,
you
the
can, yeah.
talking and the explorations of ideas is the core values that you and I share.
I agreed 100%. Like you just made me think of like if this was a work meeting right now, like if this was like us talking about pipelines and outcomes, and I would have fallen asleep. I mean, I'm no joke. I would have been there going, like, you would have seen me on the other end of this call going, oh my god. Like I mean, I would have, like I mean, I if I was on video, I would have had to taken myself off video multiple times, probably walked behind myself, like slapped me in the face and been like, all right, let's do
Yeah.
this. We got another 10 minutes, like focus, like I mean, like I would have had to, I don't know, I would have had to have done something unnatural to get myself to not fall asleep during that call. Like didn't happen tonight. Like
It happened. I mean, you're gonna have to like stop yourself because this is winning way over, and your body needs
yes.
the recovery time.
All
I
right.
mean, but
Actually, we're done. We're done. All right. All right.
yeah.
We're wrapping for the night. All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. The question we can leave with you is, how are you documenting your journey toward meaning? So share it with us. I would love to hear it. And Drew, I will see you tomorrow night. Or
All right.
wait,
See ya.
Monday. Yeah.
Monday. Sounds good. See ya.